Welcome once again to Rise the GM, where today we're going to be talking about a bitter brigand, a mysterious new star, and we're going to be talking about some different play styles and what to do with them at your table here on Rise of the GM. Adam, we are back again here today, and we are starting a new series here, kind of. This is actually out of a series. We just finished a series called Rolling Dice.
Yep.
This one's kind of an out of series, right?
Yeah. I think there may be some pieces that are semi-connected, but it's not like so cohesive, I guess.
So we're doing something here. You get to see what it is. Talking about play styles a little bit today and how to deal with them at the table.
Yeah.
All kinds of things you can expect and how you can help. But as always in this podcast, we start with an encounter starter. Something that you can use to drop into a game. And Adam's going to get us started on our encounter starter.
Yeah. I'll read that here. I was laughing because every time we start an episode, I can only think of way back when, like many episodes ago, there were questions. And Wataya Hotel asked something about like, what's the sound of the opening thing? And it was like a person hyperventilating before peeing or something like that. And I laugh every time. So that was just a random.
What it is, by the
that's
way.
not what it is at all. It's a filling of the coffee cup, right? So scratch. Anyway, that was all random and free. So this Eureka thing here, for glory, nothing more, is the encounter starter for today. It's very interesting. So one morning, a bright light shines on the horizon as if a new dawn were breaking, only 100 times brighter. A powerful breeze then sweeps across the entire countryside, blasting open doors and lasting for more than a minute. The smell of jasmine lingers and then slowly fades away. A new object is now blazing on the horizon, what appears to be a star twinkling on the surface of the world. It's bright enough to see during the day, and it provides a pale blue light all night long, illuminating the darkness, yet not interfering with sleep. What is this new, quote, star? Is it 100 miles away or 1,000? Is it a blessing or a harbinger of doom? I just can't say that at all.
Harbinger.
Harbinger of doom. Yeah, thank you. Is it a magical thing or is it a divine thing? Most important of all, who will be the first to reach it? Hooks include being hired as part of an expedition, a dream of the star landing the night before it actually comes to pass, preventing a rival from reaching the star first, or plain old fame and glory. On their journey to the star, the PC should encounter hazards along the way, as well as competition in the form of NPCs who will try to thwart the PC's advancement. Whether this is malicious or merely friendly opposition is up to you. A mix of both may work best. The PC should also encounter groups that fear the star and want to prevent anyone from reaching it, as they believe it to be an object of evil. Of course, there are groups that worship the star as well, and they try to prevent anyone from reaching it because they believe it to be sacred. The fun of this plot is that no group actually knows what the star is, yet they all will fight one another for various reasons related to the mysterious light. The true nature of the light source is completely up to you. Keep the focus on the race to be the first to the scene. You can do this by having multiple teams in play and letting the PCs gain the lead on one team only to lose it to another. So this is for glory, nothing more. Harbinger is the word. What do you think about this?
So I've been reading a lot of lit RPG. I think I've talked on here. I only recently found this genre, and I dove headfirst into it and read about like 18 to 20 books already.
Yeah.
And but it's been something I've been reading one right now called Primal Hunter, and it reminds me a lot of what would be called a system event. So this system comes and kind of takes over as a world is being inducted into the multiverse or whatever, and then as people are first beginning to understand this, they have all of these little boons, world events and multiversal events that the system sets up for these people. That's what this seems like to me. It's like
Oh, interesting.
this thing came and nobody knows what it is, and everybody's trying to get to it, and what's it going to be, and when you get there, what's it going to do? And so
Yeah.
you know that any kind of a system event, in this case, if you're in a fantasy thing and it's less of a system thing, it could be more of a,
Right.
destiny, the harbinger event, whatever it is. You know that whatever it is, it's probably going to be challenging, but it's also probably going to give amazing loot, amazing good things for people who are the ones to get there first or to solve it first or whatever. And so that's the kind of thing I think of right away with this. And if you can begin to plant that idea into your PC's head that this is the kind of thing that when it comes, nobody knows what it is, but everybody knows that there's going to be amazing things
Right. Yeah.
that you can get. Man, your PCs will probably not need any more than that right there, because PCs love loot. They love good things. And so, getting them on the way. So the whole thing is, whatever the reason is, then it becomes the race, right? Why some people, I love the idea that they said some are afraid of it and feel like this is evil, that we have to keep everybody from getting to it because this is like the destruction of society and morality and the world and all that is good. And so we're going to basically bar everyone. We're going to do our best to keep anyone from getting to it and activating it. You got other people who are like, we've got to get there first. And so you're fighting them along the way. And you got all these different kinds of people with different motives. And I think it's good to this is a cool place so often in your world, you have your party, and that's the main focus, and everybody else is kind of either mundane villagey people or they're bad guys, whatever. But occasionally games will have adventuring parties cross paths, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, that's another adventuring party. Well, this is a perfect place to say okay, you guys are some of the elite adventuring parties, but you know what? There's others out there. You don't know their strength. Some may be kind of strong. There may be some out there more elite than you. Is that possible? And then you cross paths with them as you're trying to get to this thing first. And then I think, you would obviously, as the GM, have to know before you started this, what is it going to be when they get there?
Yeah. Right.
I like the idea of some sort of a challenge dungeon sort of thing that gives the people who win it the best, or maybe first and best, they get the best prizes. Other people may get a chance to go through it, whatever. Or you may be in there together, in which case you're fighting the dungeon, but you're also fighting this one elite group and this one not so good group, in my just kind of first blush hearing of that, that's probably the way I would take it, in that, I would probably have it be set up as, instead of a system event, I'd have it be set up as an event by, this god of the multiverse who is all into challenge and competition and likes to pit people against one another, but he also loves to give amazing relics to those that prove themselves worthy. And of course, then let my players go, see what they do. But then, also that gives me a chance to throw some other people who are pretty awesome against them.
Right.
Well.
Yeah, that's cool. Josh is worthy. I like this. I feel like with Eureka, there's often encounters that we've went through that are pretty explained, this is point A to point B kind of thing, and this is on the other side of that thing where it's one of these really open-ended. You can do so many different ways, and you could set this up 100 times and play it out different ways, which I think is pretty cool. It's good for an adventure. It's another one I feel like is longer term. If I'm thinking about this, I would want this to be longer, and I think part of that is the setting up the urgency and just the we're trying to get to this thing and we're not there yet kind of feel, but also so even some of the story stuff that is involved in there, of you have these people having all these different reactions to this star. It wouldn't that wouldn't come about in 2 days probably. It's you need time for those things to build and for there to almost be cults going around this one way or the other. It reminded me a lot actually, and I don't know, I think when I think about this, I'm getting red markets triggers a little bit for me because and I know we talked about this back in the red markets episode, but like the blight, that's what's causing the zombification and all that stuff. People react to it in 100 different ways. There are people who are like, to be covered, to be taken by the blight is the highest of human achievement, and like it's like a almost being worshipped, kind of thing. And whereas these other people are like, we have to eradicate this, or we want to study it and understand every bit of it, or all these different ways to engage with it. And then I think about that with this thing of, if you're wanting to build a like more complex way of people reacting to it, it needs to have some time like built. Or it could, you could also do the 3 months ago, 6 months ago, this thing appeared. You're just now hearing about it and being drawn into this. That could be a thing too, I guess. But I think some time, like letting some time get set in the actual story of the thing, is a good deal. But I love expeditions. I always like the idea of, it's the discovery. I've talked about that a lot, but I like the discovery part. So this would be exciting for me as a player to be drawn into, of like, we are going to travel across these places and find new things in the midst of trying to find this one specific thing. To get to it, we're going to have to pass through all these places and understand what it is. So I really like that. And as like a GM, I like showing that off too. So, that's pretty good times for that. But
And as far as peeling the onion back, how we talk about like, okay, in a normal D&D campaign, you're fighting this guy, you feel like he's the bad guy, you finally beat him, but you realize he was just the puppet of this guy, and then like you work to get that, and then you realize, oh, this was like a huge guild function that's like multi-continental, and like they're the bad, and every time you like think you conquer, it peels back, there's another boss. Same thing. You could go this. It's like the whole thing is nobody knows what this is, and you got all the adventures along the way, the terrain you got to go over, the people you got to interact with, and then you finally get there, and it feels like it's the end. But then when you get there and you do this, you realize this is the first of 3 tests that will be given to this planet, and then they're aware, oh, there's going to be another star shows up. The next one will be red.
Interesting.
So they're like watching, and then the next trip will probably be quicker because now they know it's about getting these 3 stars. But when they get those 3 stars, then that shows that the 3 gods have come to the conclusion that these 2 teams now go into the final arena or whatever. It could always just be that peeling of the onion back. It's like, oh, but this was just one part of what's really the whole story.
Yeah, I like that. Just lost completely what the. I think there's another piece I was thinking about, was like the chaos like lover in me wants them to get to this thing, and it's like some wizard who has a tower shined up his mirror that's on the top of the tower, and it's like, just you get there and it's like, what's everybody doing, kind of thing. And but no, the thing I was actually I wouldn't actually do that, but I want to. The thing, I think this would fit really well if you have a long-term game going. A way I would use it, I think, is long-term game going. You have kind of an initial thing where the party kind of like, they kind of, I don't know, make a name for themselves, but they've like established themselves as accomplishing something, but you're not necessarily ready to jump into something really, really deep yet. But this could be kind of a middle. They've won their spurs a little bit, but now it's like, here's this thing that can bring them out. They can get a little more information about the world, what's coming. And I liked what you said about it not just being a single one-off thing. You get to the star and then whatever, and then it's over. But it's like, this is a continual thing. It's like developing. I think that's really good. It reminds me or I'm being reminded because I think of the colors and the light thing. And I'm reading the Lightbringer, that Lightbringer series. It's like where they're like creating, the way I understand it, at least right now where I'm at in the book. So if you're a Lightbringer fan and I'm wrong, please, sorry. But they're like trying to create gods basically, out of these banes, and they're all like built in the light. So you could get there and it's like, oh, there's this like massive entity that is now here, and we have to decide, are we good with this? If we're not good with this, can we even do anything about it? Because it's, kind of thing, and go from there. I think that could be a nice like opening to an adventure, too. So
Hmm.
it's pretty cool. I like this all around. I think you could do a ton with it.
We like the ones that are very open
Hmm.
because we like, as GMs, being able to make up stories. It's nice to have something to trigger us, right? So there we are.
Yeah, Rob said it would be fun if the star fell far away, and the longer they take to get there, the people and creatures in the area mutate more and more. It's like having an effect on them. I like that too. And that's like one of those urgency, and even the like player choices matter. If I go, if somebody calls for help and we go this way and it takes us a week to deal with that and then go on, one, somebody may get there first, but two, the bad stuff is going to happen all the more. I like that too. It's good.
So
Yeah.
see what you can do with that encounter, and let us know if you use it.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, today we're talking about play styles
Yeah.
and different play styles and your response to different play styles as a GM.
Yeah.
So, Adam, kick us off.
Yeah. Just kind of this conversation. I think like if you play for any amount of time, if you run games for any amount of time, like eventually there's going to be this moment where it's like, okay, these people have very different styles of what they're like going for. I think it's the nature of getting people together. No matter what you're doing, it's like there's different expectations about things, and or just like, I think the types of fun play a huge role in like what we're talking about today. Like if I my style is going to be, I think, molded a lot by like what I find to be fun, and that makes sense, kind of deal. So when you gather people, we're probably going to come up against that at some point. I don't think it's a problem, but I think it can be like an obstacle to work through, or maybe an opportunity to get creative. With is a better way to put that, even, because I don't think it's like table or game breaking at all to have people who are interested in doing different things and have different styles of play. It doesn't have to be, but it's something that we will probably navigate, as GMs. So that was kind of the idea of coming in today about this, looking at how do we navigate that, like what are some ways we could do that, and just trying to like have some ideas generate a little bit, give some encouragement in that. I think like I was, for you guys listening, I was, we were talking to Matthew earlier, and I had this big list in my head of like kind of continuums. And they've like blanked for the most part over the week as I was thinking about this. That's why you write things down, but some things that could be different. You come to the table, and you may have somebody who really, really, really is like mechanics and like heavy rules. That's like what I want, kind of thing. And you might have somebody come to the table who is not so interested in that. Like mechanics don't get them excited, and like they enjoy a little bit lighter of a role thing. That could be a difference that two people come to the table at. There could be the difference in like someone coming to the table and expecting a game to be very epic and like this like world or even universe, like things are matter to those things and to the fate of those places. Or you might have somebody who just wants to come in and have a laugh, and it's like a fun, lighthearted, real low key kind of situation. Those can be two different kind of styles of play that people bring in. You could have somebody who wants to be really, really immersed and like just in the world. You may have somebody who's more casual about it and just kind of wants to show up and, hey, I want to have fun on Thursday night and not think about this any other time. Like, and that's both fine, but they're very different. You may have somebody who wants to come and have combat all the time, or somebody who is all about story and loves the RP sessions and those kind of things. So I'm just kind of throwing some of those out. That's not a comprehensive list by any means, but that's the kind of stuff that comes to the table where different people are bringing different desires, and I don't know, just kind of saying that stuff, Matthew, like, are there other things you've kind of noticed as far as maybe some differences in play style?
I think there's a lot of
Mm,
kinds of differences, and you could kind of find all these different continuums, like you said. I think a big part, so there's going to have to be, as things crop up, you as the GM are going to have to be aware of, okay, they look like they're in different places on this, and how am I going to bring that? And we're going to talk a little bit
right.
about that. But I think the very first step, probably for all of these, is a session zero.
Yeah.
And that is having uh, some of these things in mind. Maybe the ones you can think of, some of the ones we said maybe here,
Yeah.
and just saying, hey guys, we're getting ready to start a campaign. And what do you guys want this to be? What do you think of when you think of Thursday night and playing this game
Mm,
on this dynamic? As far as like, okay, us being like totally immersed and in character, or us being very, meta and jokey and talking about what's going on in
right.
our world at the same time we're snacking. And, they're probably not going to be like total immersion, nothing out here. But they're also probably not going to be like everything out here and hardly any immersion. They're going to be somewhere in
Mm,
between. But for them to have thought about that and kind of voice
right.
it, because you're going to have some people who just their natural style is to always have that quick, snarky comment. That's just who
Mm,
they are. They love the snark. They love that. And then you're going to have other people who don't want to be any of that.
mm,
And them hearing that from each other will
yeah.
help. Because you get to
Yeah.
have that at the beginning, and so whatever the difference is, it's like, oh, I love rolling dice, and I want the rules. I want the rules to be strict and hard, and I want, if
Yeah.
we fail and we die, and somebody else to be like, well, I just want this to be fun, and I don't want it to be like such a rules lawyer sort of thing.
Mm,
And again, you got to hear people. They may all fall in
yeah.
kind of one place, they may not. Them having had the chance to hear it and hear other people, even if it comes up differences during a
Mm,
particular encounter, they will have recognized, okay, we kind of talked about this. As much as I love
right.
just making snarky comments, we did say we wanted it to be not all snark. So I'm going to pull back a
Hmm.
little bit here. Now, in that moment, what you do as a GM is going to be somehow playing off of that session zero. But I think you can like head a lot of those off by starting with a session
Yeah.
zero.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that too. Because I have tended to almost do like a survey kind of thing, and it changes like when you have a longer. Again, we're I think unique and blessed where it's been a very long, there's been a very long time of playing with people, who we've gotten time to get to know, and it's like, I don't know everything about everybody, but like I have a sense of like what people at our table, like enjoy. So that
Right.
helps when you have the timing, but even when we're like maybe looking into a different like RPG, like an actual different game, and saying like, well, what are we kind of looking for, or starting a new campaign or those kind of things. I do like to do I'll do like a Google form or something, or just like text somebody and be like, hey, can you answer these 3 questions for me? But I've actually never really done that like publicly, and I like that idea a lot because it does give ownership to everybody. And I think that is a really good point for that session zero, is to let you use the term like let them hear each other. And I think that's like that's really good. Um, yeah. So we do that, but there still can be those things come up. So at the table, we have maybe some ways to deal with that as well, where maybe the types of fun or what's kind of rearing its head as far as uh, somebody really really wants to explore all the time, somebody wants to go range all the time. I don't know who that would be, but somebody wants to just always go off
That's
away from
Adam.
everybody else. That's me. Meanwhile you have like other people who are trying to stay together and things like, what do we do with that kind of thing? And Rob said me.
Yeah, or you got the one guy who has no stealth, who always wants to run front.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
Because
like
you want to be in it.
the guys with stealth are like, no, no, no,
Right.
let me go up, do my thing first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do? I think first of all, you have to recognize. You brought up a point, and that is we have a group of guys that have been playing together for a long time. We know each
Right.
other well, and we kind of know who each other are.
Mhm.
So part of this comes down to what's your reason for meeting. So our reason
Right.
is we love fantasy gaming, but a bigger part is we like each other and
Yeah.
we want to hang out together. And so
Right.
that's going to be a very different way to approach some of these questions than
Mm.
say you have a local gaming group, and when you go to this store, whoever shows up, they're going to put them in a gaming group, and
Yeah.
maybe
Right.
you'll game 2 or 3 sessions together, and then
Mhm.
and so you don't know these people, and your main goal is not necessarily I want to deepen friendship, and we're going to make compromises because we want to it's important for us to feel good about one another, not just the game. Well,
Right.
if you don't know people and that's not your goal, it may be just like I want.
Yeah.
And so in some of those second situations, there's going to be some advice I give that's like
Mm.
maybe you need to decide, is this the group for you? You get put together with
That's
some
true.
people,
Yeah. Right.
and that may not be, and you may be like, you know what? As much as I kind of wanted to be in that group, I can just tell there it comes to like real life argument because the way these people are playing every week, and it's not fun, and we're not going anywhere.
Right.
And so I'm going to remove and look for a different group. But
Mhm.
if you're in like the group like we have, that's not going to be one of those options because you care about those guys, that their friendships and the longevity of those. So you're not just going to be like, I'm leaving, no matter what. There's I saw this flow chart resolving basic behavioral problems, and this guy made a flow chart. He's like, okay, you start at this place. A player or GM does something you don't like. Arrow to a box. Talk to them about it like an adult. Okay. Then it goes to the diamond, and then it says, okay, if they listened and changed their behavior, then it goes up to everyone's happy. End. End of flowchart. If they didn't understand you or you wussed out, go back to talk like an adult to them. If you were clear, but they're still doing whatever the problem is, you go to the next box. Does the thing bother anyone else? Then it goes to the decision diamond. If it's yes, then you go up to this box. Is it really a big deal to all of you? If no, then we're okay. If yes, it really chaps our collective britches, then you kick this person out of your group, and then everybody's happy. That's the if go back to the does this bother anyone else? If no, then it goes down to just how salty are you about this, and then you go to your it could be worse, could be stabbed. It says okay, let it go, let it go. And then you go up to all better, or I burn with the white hot fury of 1,000 suns when I think about this person in there. Then find a different group, and then the winner there is you. Right. So this guy has a little flow chart about how you decide how big a deal is this. Again, that's good if you're not really tied to this group. Okay. You're going to make those decisions on how to do that. But if you're really tied to the group, then we come to the questions about like, okay, how do you resolve some of this? And
Yeah. Right.
and I'll say we've had some guys kind of come in the group occasionally and play for a little bit, and it just not kind of jive, and they end up leaving. And so they may have gone through this flow chart and just decided that Matthew and Adam, and they make me burn with the white hot fury of 1,000 suns. I'm out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Wataya Hotel was saying you should put that on the screen because they've been meaning to send it to us. That may be something I'll probably figure that from you and link it in our socials too. I think
Yeah,
that'd be
here
funny to.
I'll just show you this real quick, and you can look at it here. How do I do this? Tabs. It's this one. Okay, share.
While
And
you're doing
then-
that, something that Evan says here. He said learning what fellow players' types of fun are can help make compromises easier for them to swallow. It's kind of in that line of what we're talking about with the session zero and letting people hear each other. The players know there'll be different aspects of the game spotlighted time to time. And I think that like spotlight, that word is really good because I think that's part of this situation. kind of to pull
Yeah.
to the player. Sorry, I didn't mean to like cover that up,
No,
but
it's all right. We'll throw
uh,
that up and let them take a screenshot of it later.
the from if we can go to like a player standpoint, I think it's important. So if I'm going to a table as a player, there is an aspect of like this is part of the player better player practices. I think we talked about this, but it's like there's an aspect of like I'm going and this isn't just about me when I go to the table to play a game, kind of thing. It is this like collective thing that's happening. We are a group of people. Hopefully I understand that this is not the Adam show, kind of thing. And like, I need to be aware of that kind of thing. So I think there's some like suspension of, I have to have every bit of this be entertaining to me, or, you know what I mean? Like engaging all at all times kind of thing. And if that's coming across right. So there's that kind of from the player standpoint, and I think when I'm hearing like, okay, well, this person really loves to annihilate 1,000 goblins every time. That's not my thing, but like I want them to have fun too. So if the DM throws 1,000 goblins in front of us and we just wipe them, it's still going to be fun no matter what. But like that's like a time when their fun is getting spotlit, even if like I'm not super like into that kind of thing, or if this person really loves riddles and there's a riddle that's thrown in front of it, like that can happen. I don't know who that would be, but that kind of thing goes on, and I'm okay as a player, hopefully, in that. So I think that's an important part if we're looking at it from the player side of things, is like remembering it's not just me that's out there. It's like we're all part of this. But from the GM thing, I think that word that Evan used about spotlighted, and you brought that up like episode 3, I think, Matthew, about like moving the spotlight, like we're doing this thing as the director, where we're like able to keep that going. I think moving through those types of gameplay and knowing that as a GM, it's like I want to know my types of fun for all the players, but that may not, it may be very very there may be a correlation between those and gameplay, but there may be some other things that are like gameplay styles that aren't necessarily connected to it. And I want to know those things too, because then I can move that spotlight around on those things too, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that graphic,
Mhm.
this is for all of you there. I don't know who. Oh, I should take that title off the screen for a second. Where is it? There we go. Whoops. You ever have that thing where your mouse turns into when you move up, it scrolls real fast? That's just what happened. Okay, we'll get rid of the.
If you're just listening to this, I'm gonna try to
I can't find what I'm looking for here.
I'm gonna get this on the
No,
socials
that's not in.
too, so you
Yeah,
can see it there.
here's what we'll do. We'll just put it up on the socials because our title is going over the top of it here. But that's basically the flowchart. We'll put that up on the socials. You'll see that.
That's really
And
funny too. I like the tongue in cheek part of that also.
but I think yeah, there's going to be that spotlighting thing is definitely important as far as like getting a place where everybody enjoys a part of it. I think what's hard is when two people really don't like each other's play style, and it's
Right.
not so much about like spotlighting, but you have the one dude over here who's like, well, he's talking character. I need you to talk in character. What you doing over there, Pip? And Pip doesn't even talk. And he's like, I come up and I roll a perception. You do what? You look around, and it's like Pip is like, I'm getting really tired of that guy and his voice. And the guy with the voice is like, why don't you ever like get in the character? What do you do when it's those
Yeah.
kinds of play style differences? What would
Right.
you do, Adam?
Yeah.
You're like, don't throw that at me right now.
Please don't
What
make
would
this
you
happen.
do, people?
Hello. I it's gonna depend on as you were saying earlier, like what's the group, kind of thing. But if that's the situation in our group, that is an outside of the table conversation, in my opinion. I think like the flowchart said, let's talk like adults, and have these discussions. Be like, hey, like if it's a like people are calling each other out for their style, it's like well, how can we compromise in this place? Like maybe don't try to force the other person to do things they don't want to do. And also maybe have a little more patience for the person who's just enjoying themselves. Like, can we do that? Where's the compromise? So that's going to land for me a lot where it's like, if this really is an issue, I think we need to, I'm always like, I don't feel like I've had the, like, players don't like each other. Like,
Right.
I don't think I've experienced that for real, like, kind of thing. But there are times when I'm like, I don't know, there's been times when it's like, okay, there seems to be some rubbing raw, like, here about the way things are going, and that's why when I've talked about, like, okay, players, not players, characters are about to fight for whatever reason, we're gonna pull out of this for a second and just make sure we're all good. Like, that's a real thing for me because I just want to make sure, like, is this in game or out of game? And if it's out of game, we need to, like, talk a little bit about this and do better, So that would be I in that specific thing, that would be a, like, let's talk outside of the game session and see if we can come to a place where both people are having fun with that.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is to keep the focus on we want to have fun here. That's why we
Mhm.
get together. That's why we do this. You have
Yeah.
a character who's like, oh, my player who's like, my character is very, you know, greedy and self-centered. And so when we walk into the room, I throw a sleep potion or a sleep spell on two of my own party, and they fall asleep. And then I
Yeah.
grab stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's fun for you, get to
Right.
play this kind of character out, but is that fun for the party? And
Yeah. Right.
let's keep this idea of we come to do this to have fun,
Yeah.
as a group.
And with that kind of stuff too, like, there's that joke about, it's like, or maybe it's not a joke so much, but it's what my character would do. Like, is it? Like, is every character we play, like, if I play every character that way, then it's not about what my character would do, it's what Adam wants to do, kind of thing. And I think there is room for, like, okay, this character does not trust people and steals from people, but maybe there could be character growth through the time when we're playing where you're not forever stealing from your people. Like, maybe there could be a story in that as well.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, that's, I think that is the thing I want to pay attention to also, as the GM at times, of like, okay, this is an irritant that makes a like an appearance in every character that's played. We need to
I
talk
like
about that too a little bit. So
Rob's response to them saying, well, that's just the way my character would play was make a new character.
Yeah, you're not chaotic neutral. You're playing chaotic jerk, to put it clearly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Chaotic
Thanks,
jerk.
Wataya Hotel. So, yeah, I think some of that stuff, like, I think I was naming off some things like how you see the rules and how they play, rulings and rules and those types of things. Um, Epic and lighthearted, like that kind of stuff. Like you said with the session zero, I think can get cleaned up quite a bit. But then there are those moments at the table, with, like, the immersiveness versus casual, things. But I do really like being able to set that up the best we can prior, and then if there is, like, just friction, I'm trying to think of the right word, but, like, friction and that kind of thing, then we're able to address that, um, while a game's not in the middle of a game, like, roll initiative, and by the way, you're being a jerk, so stop. Like, it's like being able to have some more outside of the game conversations, I do think is a big help to that.
And don't underestimate. So a lot of this is we're trying to help you as a GM know how to do things. But
Mm,
I think one of the most important things that you can learn is how to really kind of grab that role, that as a GM, you set the tone. And
yeah.
it's okay to move through different places. So he talked about like lighthearted versus like immersed and
Mhm,
epic.
yeah.
You control that a little bit as you're describing things and telling them what's going on. If you're kind of like lighthearted, they're going to be lighthearted. And then
Yeah.
when you want it to become like that really serious immerse moment, you you give pause. You look them in the eye. You
Yeah.
maybe set up your epic music and you
Mhm.
start, the way you come about, the way you
Right.
go about telling them what's happening will set the tone for
Yeah.
how deep they are versus how flippant and kind of lighthearted and meta they're being
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What I Hotel brought up mid-session breaks being a good time for those one-on-one conversations too. If you do like hey, we're gonna take 10 for a bathroom and snacks, that can be a adjustment point too. So
And so we always, where I work here, we have student leaders, and those student leaders lead a group, and we always tell them, okay, remember, you are not there to just give them all the answers, but you're to facilitate. And so you're going to have
right.
some people who love to talk a lot, some who are really quiet. You're going to have some who take everything on a tangent, and you're going to have some who I can't think of all the different roles. We always assign them to let them role play this, but that idea sometimes you have to like take someone who basically they just either they want to do everything themselves. That's the
Mhm.
person who always wants to answer first if it's just like a group of discussion. But in this game,
Right.
it'd be like the guy who's like, okay, I roll that skill. Okay, I step up and stab him. I do this.
Right.
Sometimes you in that little 10-minute break, you say, hey, you know what? I noticed so and so barely is getting into this, and you're so good at role playing. I need your help to help set him up for some stuff.
Mm.
Give him some space, help him find a way to get involved. And what you do is you say, I need your help to do this thing that basically just really you need to back up, but you make it seem like you're helping me, right? So, like, if I'm in a group with somebody who always answers first and I got somebody else who never answers, and I pull them aside, I'm like, hey, you know what? So and so is really quiet. And, I need your help in like let's create some space to give them. It looks like they have a slow fuse. If I can have your help getting them more involved, then it doesn't
Yeah.
feel so much like I'm saying, "Could you please shut up? Could you do me a favor? Could you shut up?" It's a
Ha-
famous Seinfeld line I got in real trouble for. He said that, and I quoted it to a girl once. She said they're talking, and I'm just quoting kind of Seinfeld. I'm like, "Can you do me a favor? Can you shut up?" And boy, she was not happy. And I'm like, "No, that was from a." Never mind.
I do think like that's a thing too of like if we're wanting to help people step into the role too, kind of deal like that, asking those kind of things out of people of like, hey, could you help me pass the spotlight around, kind of thing. And because I think that does show when you're in, if you're facilitating a conversation group, or like if you're GMing a game, like you realize some things that maybe you don't realize prior to that, of just like the balance of things and how to do that. So asking somebody in that, I think it's on one side helping them to like pull back a little bit, hopefully, but also that really is a big tool. And having somebody kind of extra facilitating, you don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen, but like someone helping pass that around. I remember when we talked about the player practices, even like encouraging someone to be, if I'm a player and you're GMing and this guy over here or this girl over there is like really being a wallflower and not really engaging, even as a player, I can be like, well, we're having this conversation. What do you think about what we're doing? And so to try to draw them in, because I know that for me, it's grown, but there definitely is a natural bent for me to like reflect for a long, long time on something before sharing. And there's a lot of people like that. So being able to draw them into the mix like that too. I don't know what that one was about.
I think that was me telling some girl, "Can you do
Oh,
me a favor? Can you shut up?"
that.
Someone in the comments said, "Matthew,
Yeah.
no."
Yeah. There was something, and I don't think this is by any means the like don't go too fast to this, but like what you said something about this early on of there are times when maybe the group doesn't it's not going to be good chemistry, too. And I think that that's like an okay thing to remember, particularly like there's things for me where I'm like, if the group that we're in somehow suddenly lost all chemistry regarding an RPG, well, maybe we just need to like play poker or something, you know, like because like you were saying, there's like a friendship element, not just I'm here specifically to just play an RPG tonight kind of thing, you know, and though maybe some of that stuff would still play into anything like that. So you kind of have to work through it. But I think there are moments of like discerning, are the play styles too differing, or is there like too hard of a line that can't be like dealt with, you know, kind of thing. And that's an okay thing to be like, well, maybe, you know, another group would fit me better, you know. And sometimes I think that is the like, what RPG are you playing, even kind of thing, where it's somebody may try it out and be like, D&D is just not really, I don't really like this the way it's played, but I really like Avatar: The Last Airbender because it's so much more like narrative, you know, kind of thing. And I don't want to be crunchy over here rolling dice. So I think just like letting that be known too. I don't think I'll say I read a couple like forums this week, and one of the ones I was reading, I think was a little bit too fast. And it was like a person had played one session and was like, I think I'm about out on this. You know, it's like, well, you've done one session, you know, and like, and I'm not saying like waste your life, but give it some time too. But I think there's a certain point where maybe it's like, yeah, I could go and play with a different group and that would probably be a better fit, is what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not to forget that. You got any other thoughts on that? The thing I'm coming away with is, and we're kind of like working at this in real time in some ways, is like session 0, set some tones for that and get a good idea of what people are interested in. If there's stuff going on at the table, to be able to have mature conversations about that. And like during the game, to be intentional as a GM about spotlighting the different styles in order to help everybody have fun. That was kind of my like big takeaways for that.
Yeah. And if it's just not working at all, consider if this is the group.
Yeah.
Or this is the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So there's a little bit of the beginning of player style differences and how we begin to mediate those. And there may be some other things in there we're not thinking about. Or, yeah, I'm sure they will come out in other podcasts, but I think that's good for today. Should we move on to our NPC?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we'll have some questions come up in future episodes about some of this too, and we can dig into that more.
Yeah. So for our NPC today, we're talking about a bitter brigand named Roland Stoutheart. I'm going to start kind of backwards on this. I'll give you his background because I think it makes more sense when you get his background. So this guy was the captain of the guard. And as captain of the guard, Roland fell in love with the beautiful Maurice, a noble, right? And mistook her flirtations and dalliances with him as returning his love. And he thought, man, she's in this too. Unfortunately, once a noble came courting her, Marissa reminded Roland of his place. Hey, remember, you're just a knight. You know, that was fun, but you're just a knight. Back off. I'm with this guy. He responded then by plunging his blade into the suitor and vowing that Marissa would never marry. And he fought his way out of the castle. So he's obviously fairly, I mean, if he was the captain of the guard, of course he's fairly strong, but he got out of the castle, hid in the wilderness. Since then, Roland has joined a band of brigands, quickly becoming their leader. Because he's, like I said, he's capable and able. He also keeps an ear in the castle, and whenever a new suitor attempts to come calling on Marissa, he ensures they never arrive. So his appearances, he's this kind of a handsome guy beneath these wild locks. He still attempts to style his hair and wear clothes proudly like he used to do, but he looks like a peasant trying to play at being a knight right now. He has this quite polite nature about him. Unless one of his victims happens to be a suitor for Marissa, then he becomes quite ruthless. He speaks with a refined accent that betrays that he had a former position that was higher. His former position as a knight, right? He's honorable and polite as a brigand can be. He apologizes if things get too nasty, and he'll leave his victims that he robs with enough to finish their journey, right? He wants to make sure people, because he has this sense of honor about him. But if it's a suitor involved in that party at all, in any one of those people, He's ruthless and leaves no person in that party alive. His whole motivation is he wants to ensure that Marissa is never marries ever. So when it says bitter brigand, that's what he is. He's had this thing happen. Somehow it became so much part of his mind and heart that now he has this bitterness he just carries to the end of the earth. And so that's Roland Stoutheart, the bitter brigand, who now lives outside the castle. And anytime someone comes from a far off country, or maybe not far off, to seek the hand of Marissa, he's right there waiting. What do you think about Roland?
I like him. Sorry, I've got the train today. I like Roland a lot. I think this is super fun. It's messed up, but I think it's really it's like a fun character to have. I like the idea that I'm interested. So how he goes about, like, is he just like Rob just said, the ultimate fantasy stalker? And I was wondering if like just everything about this woman is like being watched, and just being fed back to him. He says it has ears in the castle still. And part of me, I pictured like he's, kind of in this like bandit kind of thing. People are coming through the forest and they get stopped by all these guys. And this one guy who seems a little bit more put together and has this air about him comes up, and it's got like the Inigo Montoya thing going on, where it's like every single person is like, you don't happen to have 6 fingers on your hand, do you? And it's like, he's always asking pointed questions about this lady, or like, what's your reasoning for going to the castle or whatever. I really loved, also that idea of like, well, how far are you going? Okay, you're probably going to need 4 gold pieces to get there, so here you go, and takes the rest, kind of thing. I think that's like really amazing. So I'm a fan of Roland for sure.
He does the robbing because that's what the brigand does. That's what the bandit party does. But his whole purpose is, are you going in there for her?
Oh, right.
Okay. Well,
yeah. The switch gets flipped. Rob brought up, Watai Hotel brought up the Phantom of the Opera, like that kind of having that feel of like taking these people out and stuff like that out of jealousy, kind of thing. So it's interesting. I'm a fan. I do wonder, like, so is this like they meet him because they get stopped by a brigand group? Like, is that how he gets introduced to them? Is it like a tavern story? Like, how would you initiate that kind of thing?
Could be a lot of ways. I mean, the most direct way is they're going through the forest and they get stopped by this guy who begins to question them. And, your PCs are never going to lay down and just like let this guy rob them, even if he's going to give them enough gold to get to where they're going to go. That's not going to happen. So you'd have to decide, does he like back off and say, you know what, you seem like good people. You seem like you're honorable, whatever. So where it gets fun is if you introduce your party in this city, this village, whatever it is, and you let this Marissa begin to flirt with one of the PCs. And then they travel about some more. Then things can get interesting. And, see what happens.
So you made a good point at the start of that, was like, if there's a good chance if they try to rob them, then all these brigands end up dead.
Yeah.
And that none of the story matters, right? Because it never was able to be told. So you have to figure out a way to, I feel like I like the idea of them being engaged in that way, but it's like, maybe the brigands had a good day robbing people already. And as the group comes through, they're not so inclined to have another fight to get more gold when they've already like got plenty for the day. They've already opened the cask of wine. They're around the fire. Let's come on and join us, kind of thing. And then like the story can be told a little bit. And he's like, by the way, do you know Marissa by chance? And they're like, no.
I like this way Watai Hotel says too, where you could meet him early in the story when he is a knight. And you meet him and Marissa and all this kind of stuff. And he seems like a fine, upstanding person. But then like later you get called back because it seems like nobles keep dying. in the forest around here,
Yeah.
and nobody knows why, or they keep going missing. Nobody
Right.
knows what happens to their whole party, just
Yep.
vanishes. And they
Yeah.
call you guys in, and that's when you meet him again. And yeah,
hmm That's a really good use of these things. And I honestly, I don't think I've thought of in that terms before, but like using these kind of NPC things, whatever the catalyst is, use it like that catalyst happens during the gameplay. So that's a good thing because you see the character development take place in that way. And it's not just like, well, this was their history and now their present is me engaging with them. It's like seeing them move. I think that's a really great use of that. Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool.
So
Awesome.
this can be a fun guy, especially because of the fact that he has this sense of honor, in some senses, in some sense of the word, and has a higher kind of social standing than you would expect being among these brigands. But then, boom, you find out
Yeah.
that it's all because of jealousy and bitterness.
Yeah. I think it's fun. Um, so kind of going into our haversack today. You
Yeah.
cool with that?
Yeah.
We're gonna pull this last one out from Evan Bright's haversack questions batch 202400829.
Oh my.
So we've talked through 3 of these already, and we do have a few more rattling around in here, but we're gonna just take the one today, I think, unless it's just like 5 seconds long. So he asked, which albums or soundtracks can you recommend to play in the background while session prepping fantasy adventures? Do you do any of that, Matthew?
There's I forget the band, had a song out called Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. No, not that one.
Sometimes.
So first of all, I don't really, music doesn't make its way into my games as much as far as like background music. And then same when I'm prepping, often I'm in silence. I do best in silence, but sometimes I've wanted to get in that music mood. And the one thing that I used to listen to was actually something that was recommended to us by the guy who wrote this question. He came, I don't remember if it was, he played in one of his games or what, but it was the Moscow International Symphony or
Oh,
Moscow.
yeah.
Anyway, all I remember is I found that and listened to it, and he can probably tell us more what the title was because I don't even remember.
Moscow
I
Symphony
searched
Orchestra.
whatever it was he sent us, and I would listen to it, and it was like very fitting.
Yeah.
Moscow Symphony.
Yeah.
That's
Moscow
all I can
Symphony
remember.
Orchestra. Yeah.
Moscow
Yeah. There
Symphony
is some really good
Orchestra.
stuff from them for sure.
So, how
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah. See, like this, I have a huge list because this is like
Adam is big
my
into
thing.
music. Yeah, it's his
This is how
thing.
I'm built. Though I will say, like, I think
Wait, before you go, maybe We Built This City on Rock and Roll or Eye of the Tiger. Those might be
Yeah.
good ones for planning. We built
I
this city.
yeah, doing some
Writing
city
it
building.
down.
I do think, jokes aside, the Let the Bodies Hit the Floor could have been really good for the Lich battle that happened a few sessions ago. So that would have been fun. Especially if you get a kind of like a fantasy remix version of that or something. Have to think about that. But yeah, I stuff like Moscow Symphony Orchestra. There's so many. This is going to be more generalized at first, but there's so many playlists like on YouTube or even like Spotify, probably anywhere you can listen to music that are like specifically built for fantasy mix and I'm broadening out the question. I know Evan asked for fantasy, but it could be like the cyberpunk mix or the post-apocalyptic mix. Like there's all this stuff. Like it's pretty prevalent. The problem with that is it's not always good, kind of thing. Like, and you may have a different, and maybe good is not even a fair statement. It's like, it's kind of like expectations and different play styles. Maybe my music style and what I'm expecting and wanting doesn't match up with this person who made this list, but it's still decent. But so I think like, there's things like, when I sit down, what I was about to say, kind of go back to this is my planning has been not so much I sit down and like sit there for 2 hours and deal with the next session. That's not what mine has really been for a while. It's like through the week, I have a lot of brain work that I'm like sitting in a car waiting to pick up my kids from school, and I have 7 minutes and I think about what could this conversation look like, or I'm walking across campus and that like pops into my brain and I kind of, oh, what could they fight in this dungeon, kind of thing. What would be interesting for that? Or the waiting on a train, like, and we have a lot of trains, as you know. But the that kind of stuff, there's like these moments of downtime where I kind of do some creative work, and then I'll make jot some notes in my journal, those kind of things. But then I try to do, typically it's like Tuesday night for our Thursday night game. I try to like sit down and actually get some stuff on paper, or like in D&D Beyond if I'm using that. And that's when I would do this. But like to actually answer the question, things for fantasy like the Witcher soundtrack. Obviously I'm a geek for this, but any like Lord of the Rings music is always going to get me in the mood kind of deal. Howard Shore, just specifically, Game of Thrones soundtrack is really good. There's a guy named Justin Bell who wrote or made the music for Pillars of Eternity, and that's actually one that I've used a lot in my recent game. There's a specific track that plays a lot when people are dealing with ley lines for the most part, that I try to get it playing if I can remember to do that. And that's a Justin Bell thing. It's got some really cool stuff. And then Jeremy Soule did Guild Wars and Morrowind and Oblivion, and I can't remember if he did Skyrim too, but he's got a lot of that and has really good. So those, I tend to go into those kind of realms. There's also I don't know if they write all this stuff or like what the situation. There's on YouTube. It's I just lost the name of it. It's like 2 Steps from Hell, 5 Steps from Hell, 3 Steps from Hell. I'll figure it out.
A little bit outside of hell, evidently.
Not too close. They're pretty close to hell, I guess. But it's like really epic, and sometimes too epic is too much for me. I need it to be a little chiller, but I'm gonna veer a little bit. Sentinels of the Multiverse, anything MCU or DCU, those kind of movies have great themes. Listen to them, and that'll get you going in the superhero mode. If you're doing something like Starfinder or maybe even like Spelljammer or those kind of things, Mass Effect has a great soundtrack. There's this thing called Space Wave that you can YouTube. I thought the Tron soundtrack was interesting to like listen to. And then like things like Red Markets, or maybe post-apocalyptic kind of things, or even maybe Western kind of stuff. If you have RPGs, you're in that kind of realm. The Last of Us has an amazing soundtrack, and The Walking Dead's a pretty good one too for that. So those are kind of things. I have all these playlists on YouTube that I basically just opened them up and started looking at like what I listen to. But that's the kind of stuff I'm listening to when I'm prepping. But I also use a lot of that for the actual game too, when it's chill enough to like be talking over. So Rob had thrown in a few. The Ring Cycle by, is that Wagner? Or Wagner. And then soundtracks by Austin Wintory. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, so lots of stuff to check out. Hopefully that's helpful to people to plan and play to. So I think we'll leave that at that, but I did want to just say I wanted to go ahead and give like the next 4 episodes we're going to have. We don't do that all the time, but just kind of let people know. And we're going to be looking at setting goals and hopes with players next week. So that's kind of the pre-game work. But also sometimes it happens during, kind of, there can be some early character building stuff, but then as things progress, to be able to do that. Table Tensions is the week after that. So kind of talked into that a little bit today, but maybe if there's a little bit more tension, then how do we deal with that kind of thing? try to like go into a little more depth on some of the stuff we talked about today, possibly. And then I'm super excited for specifically for October 10th. We're going to have Nicole from Dungeon Master Moms come on as a guest, and she's going to talk about playing with kids, playing RPGs with kids, because that's like her thing. She's got a really cool Instagram, just started a YouTube up with these videos, and I've found some like really cool influence from her, both with like the idea of like playing with my kids, but also just even in general for gaming. I think she has some really good stuff to do, so I'm excited to have her come on too. So that's the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. So those will be good. Be sure to join us for those. And next week again, setting goals and hopes with your players. So thanks for joining us today here as we talked about what's going on at the table with differing playstyles. And we'll see you next time for more here on Rise of the GM. See y'all next time.
See you guys.